for today's class, we'll break down the parts of a business, no? So any business, fundamentally, can be broken down into three main parts, no? So the first part is your distribution, your monetization, and finally, your supply chain, no? The way you can think about this, no, is your distribution, this is your marketing. So pag sinabi pa lang distribution, this means the distribution of your content to your main customers, no? Okay, we can define this as marketing. Monetization is gonna be your finance, and then finally, supply chain is gonna be your operations. You might be asking, what about all the other departments in a company, no? So you have your IT, your HR, all these other departments. All these other departments, they support these three main parts of the business, no? This is what I would call your main value chain. If you strip down any business to its fundamental parts, you more or less get these three workflows, no? Distribution channels, monetization strategies, and your supply chain model. Let's deep dive to each one individually. So let's go first with distribution. Distribution is all about how people will discover your product or where people will find out about your product. So may thinking kasi dati na once you create a product that people want, people will basically come. There's a misconception, kahit gaano pa kaganda yung product mo, even if you made the cure for cancer, if nobody knows about it, nobody can buy it, and you can't make money off of it. So for distribution, I would break it down into three types of distribution, no? And let's answer first, what's the central question, no? When creating or we're choosing your distribution channel. The central question is where or how will people know about your product? So there are three main ways people find out about products or services or goods, no? Either they see it for themselves, other people tell them, or you tell them as the business, no? Let's go to three one by one now. How do people see things for themselves, no? There are a lot of ways to find out about a product or a service just by going about your day, no? The way to think about this is to imagine your ideal consumer profile. Ano ba yung nakikita nila on a day-to-day basis? From the moment they wake up to the moment they fall asleep, ano yung makikita nila? Para sabihin natin, using myself as an example, I wake up, scroll on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, x.com, Threads. So all of these platforms are potential channels for an advertiser to reach me. Pagdating dito sa ideal customers seeing your product, we can actually subdivide this into two. So you have your paid and then your organic. Paid, it's all about using money to put your product or service in front of other people. So for example, running Facebook ads, running Instagram ads, Reddit ads, X ads, etc., etc. Basically, any social media platform that you can think of, you can put ads on it. One of the things that I want you guys to realize is that there are a lot more channels than you might think, no? And it's all about asking yourself the central question of how will people find about your product. In that way, you can actually innovate in terms of distribution channels. So paid, it's all about paying to get in front of people. Organic is just you posting it. For example, if I posted content about e-commerce, value-added content, or research, then people can see it for themselves, no? Kasi people find out about those things through SEO. SEO meaning search engine optimization. Pero here in the Philippines, ano ba yung main channels natin, no, for people to see your product? You have Facebook, you have IG, so the whole Meta platform, that's one. Reddit is also an underutilized resource. Not a lot of people know you can advertise on Reddit. For this section, no, when people see your product for themselves, marami pa yung innovations eh. As an example, let's go to the offline world. So sabihin natin, before social media, before the digital world, how would people advertise? If I was a business owner, how would I get people to know about my product? So you have billboards, you have flyers, bus ads. You might not have known this, pero when you go to the mall, pag may nakita kayong mga signs doon, binabayaran yun na whatever company is being advertised on those signs, usually binabayaran nila yung mall to actually put that up. If you think about it, that's a type of marketing, that's a type of distribution channel. There are also a lot of other channels na recently lang nagbubukas ng ads nila. So for example, GCash. Nakita nyo na ba yun sa GCash na parang may mga nagpa-pop up na ads? So that means GCash is actually selling this to advertisers so that people can see it when they're using their GCash. Recently, nagkaroon ng issue actually with Viber and Jollibee. Nakita nyo ba yun? Yung Merry Christmas, tapos si Jollibee bilang, nilalabas siya, kikrismas ka lang sa magulang mo, ganun. Yung mga na-mention kong channels, this is by far not comprehensive, but it should give you an idea of where you can put your product for people to know about it. Next is other people tell them. This happens mainly in two ways, the way I see it. So you have actually three ways, no? So you have your influencers, you have your celebrities, and then you have your affiliates. Influencers, obviously, if they post about a product, malalaman nyo, and automatic, once they post about it, nagkakaroon ng trust factor eh. Kasi you know them, you follow their content, you feel like they're trustworthy. So by them endorsing a product, that credibility, that trust factor goes to them. Next, celebrities, same logic. If you think about it, celebrities and influencers are kind of the same, just on different channels. Celebrities more of mass media, so TV, radio, movies. And then for influencers, it's mostly for social media. They're basically kind of the same, just different platforms, no? Last is through affiliates. Has anybody heard of the concept of affiliate marketing? How does affiliate marketing work? For example, I'm a user of this camera. It's a DJI Osmo. If DJI is sold on TikTok shops, I could be an affiliate for them by creating content and having that yellow basket link on that content. So that's one way people can find out about your product, by other people telling them. So the advantage of other people telling the audience, telling the market about your product is the credibility automatically transfers to your product. The last part is you tell them. So this is more of outbound. This applies mostly to B2B companies. So B2B meaning businesses that deal mainly with other businesses. So for example, for my company, Mod Factory, this is one of the ways that we reach out to corporates. So sabihin natin, since we make merch, if you're a cafe, you're a restaurant, you have a high potential of making merch. So we reach out to you, we tell you about our product, how we can potentially help you, increase your revenues, increase your brand awareness, etc., etc. So these are the three main distribution channels. No? How do you find out what the right distribution model is for your business? No? So this is a lot of trial and error. This is where that iterative design thinking mindset kind of comes in. So for example, if you were just starting out, you'd either choose magpa-paid ads ka, mag-organic ka, or you do affiliates, or you do influencers, or you do outbound. So usually, ito lang naman yung mga main types of channels, no? Ideally, when you're starting out your business, you have to figure out, okay, what kind of business am I playing in, no? B2B ba ako? B2C ba? Am I consumer? Am I trying to reach, for example, people who are interested in the health niche, people who are interested in entrepreneurship? So you have to define first, sino ba yung customer mo, to figure out what the right distribution channel is to use. Tapos once you find out, after a bit of testing, kung ano yung distribution channel that works for you, my advice is you have to double down and focus on that channel until you can squeeze out all of the value before you start focusing on other channels. Based on my experience, no, from what I've observed in the market, most successful businesses only really have one or two main distribution channels that they use to grow themselves. So for example, if you're, kailan nyo si Bash Manila, sobrang lakas nun eh. They sell mga luggages, as in, sobrang pinipilahan talaga sila ng mga tao. Looking at them, they're using, I think, around two main distribution channels, no? First is, from what I understand, co-founder is a celebrity, I think si Bea Alonso, so they're using that. The second distribution channel that they use is paid ads, most likely. Usually, lahat naman ng direct-to-consumer brands use paid ads. One thing lang pala is all these different channels, they're also not necessarily mutually exclusive. So you can use, for example, if you have a celebrity endorsing your product, use that celebrity and run paid ads on the content that they create. By doing this, you're creating synergy between two different distribution channels, your celebrity and your paid ads. One of the strategies that I found most effective is actually doing that, combining influencer content and running paid ads using that content. It's an extremely potent combination that can really help you grow any business. No? In terms of examples of distribution models, so sabihin natin, there are some companies who thrive through affiliates. So kung nakita nyo yung mga TikTok shop, ang dami doon mga affiliates, some businesses actually grow their revenue mainly through that particular channel. No? They don't run paid ads, they don't even have influencers, they don't do outbound, they grow mainly through affiliates. Okay, let's move on to the next part, which is gonna be monetization. Simple lang naman yung central question when it comes to your monetization strategy, no? All about how will I make money? So that's the central question when deciding your monetization strategy, no? It's how your business will make money. For monetization, a lot of different strategies, a lot of different tactics that you can put. First, product-based or one-time transaction. So what does this mean, no? So sabihin natin, you're selling cameras, you're selling t-shirts, you're selling makeup. When people want to buy your product, they just pay you, they receive it, and then they use it. Simple as that. It's a one-time transaction. Next is you have your recurring payment models. So examples of this is gonna be subscriptions, memberships. So what are some examples of businesses using these types of monetization strategies? So obviously, basically any SaaS tool. So Canva, honestly, Google Workspace, Photoshop. These are all subscription-based models. You also have memberships. So gym memberships, you pay them on a yearly basis. So recurring sila. So that's what it means. The third monetization strategy is using your IP or intellectual property. An example of this is Pokemon, Disney. One of their main monetization channels is allowing people to use their characters, their images, and parang creatives to create merch, create products. That's what IP means. It's all about using intellectual property, lending that to other people in exchange for royalties or a percent of sales, so intellectual property. Fourth is ads. This was actually a revolutionary monetization strategy that gave birth to kind of the modern internet today. So most social media platforms use ads as their main monetization strategy. If you were running a website, for example, when in Manila, you could also sell ads on your website. So kung nakapunta ka sa website, click the city or when in Manila, you'd notice na maraming ads for different restaurants, different places on their website that are not really related to what that website is about. So the reason for that is because there's a concept called display ads. So you can actually pay to put your product in front of people through these different websites. So that's your main ad strategy. Newsletter businesses, newspapers, magazines, all use an ads-based monetization strategy. Next is also have wholesaling. So obviously if you're selling in bulk, so distributors, that's their main strategy for monetization. Wholesaling, pretty self-explanatory. Next, of course, sponsorships. This type of monetization strategy applies mostly to content creators. So if you're a content creator, one way for you to make money out of that business is through sponsorships. So people, kuwari sabihin natin, if Uniqlo sponsored a content creator, Uniqlo would pay you to kind of wear their items, post about them on social media, etc. Sponsorships, also a very powerful monetization strategy. Next is affiliates. Affiliate or revenue-based or performance-based monetization strategies. What happens here is you only get paid when somebody buys your product through the channel that you created. That's also one way for businesses to make money. Next is coaching or consulting. Companies pay you for your service. Insights. So that's one way to monetize an expertise. And last but not least, you have your intermediary fees. Example of this is called Gcash. When you're paying your bills, they have a convenience fee. That's an example of that. One business that I tried to do in the past, it's called businessideas.ph. So the concept for this business is that I would have a website that just gives you as many business ideas as there are. So business ideas for laundry, parang filter sa windows, meron pa yung parang franchising, etc., etc. So how can a business like this make money, no? How does a website that just posts different business ideas make money? First, you could use a product-based or a one-time transaction type of model by selling digital products. So for example, I could sell how to create a laundry business ebook. I could sell that way. I can monetize my website. That's one way. Another way is I can also do subscriptions or memberships. So for example, you can pay for a subscription for premium business ideas. Or I could sell you a subscription for, I don't know, like a list of different service providers that you might need. So that's one way to do it. Recurring. Intellectual property, not so much for yung business ideas page na business. Fourth, ads. If my business, for example, I share different business ideas, I can actually sell ad space on my website. So for example, if my banner ako, I could sell that to a business that wants to reach the type of people who are looking for business ideas. A good example of this are franchising businesses. So for example, I could sell it to, I don't know, Potato Corner. When a Potato Corner wants to advertise and get new franchisees, I can actually ask them to pay me so that I can put their image with a little bit of copy on my website. So that's one way to do it. So ads, wholesaling doesn't really make sense. Sponsorships also make sense for this type of business. Similar to yung ads, I can get somebody to sponsor a piece of content, a piece of research, and they will pay me to do that. Affiliate is also something you can do for this type of business. Since I already have an audience of people who want to start their business, I could use this traffic and monetize it through an affiliate strategy. So that means, okay, alam ko na ito yung mga types of people who are going to my website eh. So isipin ko lang, anong types of items ba yung gusto nilang bilhin? Accounting services. I could be an affiliate for maybe a bookkeeping service, an ads agency, a performance marketing agency. So I could make money by referring my audience to these service providers. So that's another way of monetizing that type of business, no? Coaching and consulting, I could also do this. For example, if somebody wanted to start a business, I could offer them coaching or consulting service to actually help them start their business. Intermediary fees not really applicable, pero yun. So as you can see, one business can have multiple monetization strategies Pero in practice, it's best to start off with just 1 or 2 monetization strategies. Sabi nga nila, in the VC world, that's how you know if a startup isn't good, is when they have too many monetization strategies. When you put too many monetization strategies kasi in a single business, like yung credibility and trust factor mo bumababa. Because people think na, etong business to sobrang sellout, ginagawa na lang, kumaga, they're doing everything para lang makabenta, they're really squeezing out the value from their audience, no? Pag sinabing supply chain, this is usually just 2 parts. So your manufacturing and then your logistics. Manufacturing is all about how you're gonna create the product, and the logistics is how you're gonna get the product to the hands of your customers, no? So manufacturing, tatlo yan eh. You can either go in-house, fully outsourced, or a hybrid approach. Same with your logistics. In-house, an example of this is kung sabihin that you're making soaps, making scented candles, so you can make that up from your house and then you just sell it. That's what it means to manufacture things in-house. With the same example of candles or soaps, you could get somebody else to make it, so a contract manufacturer, a toll manufacturer to make it for you. And then you can also have a hybrid approach. So for example, companies like Louis Vuitton, designer companies, luxury companies, what happens is majority of it is made in like India or China, and then pagdating sa Paris, they just put like a logo or some kind of small adjustment. So that's a hybrid approach. So the reason they do that is para lang masabi na made in Paris pa din, kahit 90% of it was made in China. That's one reason why companies use a hybrid manufacturing model, because of that reason. Now for logistics, it's the same. You can have in-house, so that means you own your warehouse, you own your logistics fleet, you hire a bunch of riders to get your products delivered. Next is you obviously outsource that. So you can outsource that part through what you call a third-party logistics provider or a 3PL. And then lastly, hybrid. This means pwedeng yung warehousing mo sa'yo, pero yung last mile delivery mo or yung delivery of the goods to the main customer can be outsourced. So this is what I do for my company. I do a hybrid approach. The warehousing, the picking and packing, we do that in-house. Pero for the last mile delivery, we contract that out to a company called J&T. There are some innovations in the supply chain in recent years, no? So an example of this is dropshipping. So dropshipping, basically, ang sabihin nito is I'm selling a product that somebody else manufactures and somebody else distributes. Fully outsourced manufacturing, fully outsourced logistics. Only thing na natitira sa'yo is yung distribution channels and your monetization strategies. So essentially, dropshipping, you outsource one entire part of your business, which is your supply chain model. A second innovation here is Shein with their on-demand manufacturing approach. Shein gets a lot of flack about their impact on the environment. I take a contrarian take on what people think about Shein. I would say na they're not as bad for the environment as you would think. Bakit ba? How does Shein's model innovate against something like an H&M or a Zara, no? So for companies like H&M or Zara, they release 1,000 new designs per year, something like that, no? So what happens when you release 1,000 designs? Per design, they usually make 10,000 different pieces. So imagine 10,000 times 1,000. That's the amount of volume a company like H&M or Uniqlo needs to make in order for them to stay relevant. So isipin mo na lang yung amount of waste na nangyayari dahil doon. Kasi obviously hindi naman lahat nabibenta. They put things on discount, pero still things get, kung hindi talaga nabibenta, what happens is nilalagay sa landfill, sinusunog, tinatapon na lang. So a lot of pollution. Pero Shein has a very unique approach. Number one, they're purely online. Number two, instead of releasing 1,000 designs per year, they actually release something like 10,000 designs per day. So ganun kalayo. So how are they able to do this? They do it through on-demand manufacturing. So what happens is, my thinking is, nagpo-post na ng sobrang daming mock-ups on their platform. A lot of those mock-ups, hindi talaga siya pinoproduce pa. So they only produce it when somebody orders, or at the very least, they only produce a small batch, 100 pieces. Pag nabenta, they just scale that up. So if you guys know yung concept of just-in-time manufacturing, they've basically taken this and used it as a competitive advantage. So that's one of the innovations of Shein, on-demand manufacturing. Yung company ko, again, sorry, pa-plug ko lang, Merch On Demand also does this. So we do on-demand manufacturing. Yung sa amin is a lot closer to mass customization because we don't create things from scratch. Unlike Shein, who actually does create things from scratch. For us, kasi we mainly deal with blanks. Last innovation is the virtual supply chain. So it's kind of similar, no, to dropshipping in the sense na you've outsourced your entire business model, your entire supply chain model. But the difference here is iba-iba siyang parts, hindi isa lang. Iba yung manufacturing mo, iba yung warehousing mo, iba yung last mile delivery mo. Pero you're managing all these different parties through an office, through a virtual setup, no? So these are your supply chain models. How do we kind of use this data to create better businesses, no? By understanding the different parts of any business. So that's distribution channels, your monetization strategies, and then finally your supply chain model. By understanding how these different things interact with each other and function, you can make a better business, no? So for example, a lot of these things kasi relate to each other. So your monetization strategies impact your supply chain model. Your distribution channels impact your monetization strategies. By being aware to the fact that there are different types or models to the different parts of a business allows you to become a lot more innovative and a lot more flexible with what you can do.